Da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-da-da-da-da. It's the final video of the day. Da-na-na-da-da. Zero Hedge. Pension consultant offers, get ready for it, wait for it, get ready to be surprised, get ready to be shocked, you've probably never heard this before. Dire outlook for Kentucky. Freeze pensions and slash benefits or else. Quick. Look surprised. Underfunded pension plans, public pensions in this case, are undoubtedly the biggest threat facing America's long-term economic stability. As we've argued numerous times in the past, the size of the aggregate underfunding, $5 to $8 trillion depending on your assumptions, is simply too large for even the overly generous American taxpayer to cover. Of course, one of the biggest contributors to this inevitable crisis is the state of Kentucky, where they do chicken right, which has a funding hole of $33 to $84 billion, depending on your discount rate assumptions, according to an analysis recently conducted by PFM Group. The problem is that the aggregate underfunded liability of pensions in states like Kentucky have become so incredibly large that massive increases in annual contributions, courtesy of taxpayers, cannot possibly offset liability growth in annual payouts. All the while, the funding for these ever-increasing annual contributions comes out of budgets for things like public schools, even though the incremental funding has no shot of fixing a system that is hopelessly too big to bail. Too big to fail? No. Too big to bail. I like that term. So what can Kentucky do to solve their pension crisis? Well, as it turns out, they hired a pension consultant, PFM Group, in May of last year to answer that exact question. Unfortunately, we suspect that PFM's conclusions, which include freezing current pension plans, slashing benefit payments for current retirees, and converting future employees to a 401k, are somewhat less than palatable for both the pensioners and elected officials who depend upon votes from public employee unions in order to keep their jobs. It's a nice little circular ref that ensures that taxpayers will always lose the fight to fix America's broken pension system. Be that as it may, here is a recap of PFM's suggestions to Kentucky's Public Pension Oversight Board, courtesy of the Lexington Herald leader. An independent consultant recommended sweeping changes Monday to the pension systems that cover... By the way, let me stop. You can take what I'm about to read you and apply it to every flipping pension in this country. Public or private, doesn't matter. Just an FYI. Sweeping changes Monday to the pension systems that cover most of Kentucky's public workers, creating the possibility that lawmakers will cut payments to existing retirees and force most current and future hires into 401k style retirement plans. If the legislature accepts the recommendations, it would effectively end the promise of a pension check for most of Kentucky's future state and local government workers and freeze the pension benefits of most current state and local workers. All of those workers would then be shifted to a 401k style investment plan that offers defined employer contributions rather than a defined retirement benefit. PFM also recommended increasing the retirement age to 65 for most workers. The 401k style plans would require a mandatory employee contribution of 3% of their salary and a guaranteed employer contribution of 2% of their salary. The state also would provide a 50% match on the next 6% of income contributed by the employee, bringing the state's maximum contribution to 5%. The maximum total contribution from the employer and the employee would be 14%. For those already retired, the consultant recommends taking away all cost of living benefits that state and local government retirees received between 1996 and 2012, a move that could significantly reduce the monthly checks that many retirees receive. For example, a government worker who retired in 2001 or before could see their benefit rolled back by 25% or more. they calculated. The consultant also recommended eliminating the use of unused sick days and compensatory leave to increase pension benefits. I've got one to add. The last year you're working and you know you're going to retire, and you try to work the most overtime and get the extra hours you can so that your final pension payment for the rest of your life is way higher than it was supposed to be because it's based on the last or the highest amount you've ever made, which was the last year you worked. How about you put a rule in place for that? You average this your whole life working here, that's going to be your retirement. Or whatever your final one was. But even then, that would be abused. Hey boss, I need a raise next year. Final year, you know, taxpayers got to hook a brother or sister up. Because they do that. Police, firefighters, all of them. Last year, I should be leaving here with an $80,000 a year salary. And because I got all this overtime, I now make $120,000 a year for the rest of my life. Or my pension. Until you have something like this happen. That you helped bring on along with everybody else for doing such nonsense. Sorry about your luck. But first, it'll be sorry about our luck, taxpayer. We always foot the bill. But this pension thing is so big. Again, too big to fail? No, too big to bail. Okay, that's the bottom line. Meanwhile, PFM warned that the typical kick the can down the road approach would not work in Kentucky, and that current retiree benefits would have to be cut. Quote, "This is time to act," said Michael Nadal of PFM. "This is not the time to craft a solution that kicks the can down the road. All of the unfunded liability that the Commonwealth now faces is associated with folks that are already on board or already retired," he said. "Modifying benefits for future hires only helps you stop the hole from getting deeper. It does not help you climb up and out onto more solid footing going forward." Of course, no amount of math and logic will ever be sufficient to convince a bunch of retired public employees that they have been sold a lie that will inevitably fail, and as in fail now or fail later, take your pick, if drastic measures are not taken in the very near future. Nikolai Jelek, the legislative representative for Kentucky Fraternal Order of Police, said expecting first responders to work until they are 60 is problematic, given the physical requirements of the job. "We're very grateful that PFM is just offering recommendations. They are not lawmakers because his plan would be horrible for first responders," he said. Stephanie Winkler, president of the Kentucky Education Association, shared a similar sentiment. "The PFM had some pretty drastic recommendations that we think are not what's in the best interest of public school employees and public school students," Winkler said. What the hell do the public school students have to do with this? Nothing. Why are you... Oh, you always got to throw in women and children. Oh, I get it now. Okay. Jim Carroll, president of Kentucky Government Retirees. All right, so we have all these organizations and committees. Everyone's getting paid fat money. And they're going to be raising the BS flag the highest. No, we can't do that. No, we can't cut. We need them. These people need the money. That's because your job is dependent on those things continuing to go. Or you would be not needed. Jim Carroll, president of Kentucky Government Retirees, said his group would likely will file a lawsuit if legislation proceeds with PFM's recommendation to roll back the cost of living adjustment that retirees received between 1996 and 2012. Well, Jim Carroll, you can take a filthy dump in one hand and sue in the other. And see which one gets you further down the road you think you're going to go faster. Hint. You have a better chance taking a crap in your hand and doing something useful with it. We think it's very clear that the cost of living adjustments that were granted to us are ours, as long as we are retirees in the system, Carroll said. "It's my money and I need it now. Call J.G. Wentworth." "JG, do you accept pension?" Click. Must have lost the connection. Let me call back. "Hey, yeah, we're just talking to someone there, J.G. Wentworth. Do you guys must have dropped the line or something? Do you guys accept pension payments?" Click. JG Wentworth wouldn't touch your pension plan with a 1,000-foot pole. As I've said a gazillion times, if you ever get an offer to settle pension, here's a lump sum, you take it and run as fast as you can, cash that sucker, dump some money, get your precious metals if you don't have any, and put a bunch into these cryptos. And your little upset feelings you have about how little of the nest egg they sent you will quickly vanish when you see what the cryptos do with that little bit of money, or depending on what it is, may not be a little bit of money you just put in there. What else are you going to do with it? Can't live off it. Might as well take a chance, right? That's what I would do. Take care.